Hi everyone, this is a short screencast for Independent Colleges Dublin for CIMA E2 for November 2014. And what we're going to look at in this particular screencast is project management and the four main areas of feasibility studies. Okay, now I'll draw your attention to May 2013 question 6 if you're looking on the CIMA's website, and if you're using the BPP text or the exam kit indeed, question 62 part A on page 27. Okay, so what is this question about? Just move you to the requirements first briefly and see what we have here. Really what we're asked to do is discuss the types of feasibility for a given project, in this case an online marking project, and really what we're trying to do is to use those areas to establish whether or not to proceed. So, what are the feasibility areas and how would this particular company put them into place, or this particular institute? Okay, so in terms of the body of the question itself, fairly straightforward. Again, as I've said before within these short screencasts, we're sort of outlining a problem in some way, normally linked into that iron triangle of time, cost, and quality, and we're looking at feasibility in this case. Perhaps giving us some sort of idea of whether or not this particular online marking scheme can help the institute. So we have the Institute of Catering Technicians. They offer a wide range of awards, both professional and vocational, holding examinations several times a year. The current system of marking is clearly time-consuming and costly, and they're looking at the possibility of an online marking system, or indeed the feasibility of an online marking system. What they do in the question is just sort of detail the current system, which is fairly straightforward and sort of what you would expect. They're simply taking the scripts from the examination room, sending them by courier to the head office, and then on by courier again to the individual markers. They're marked and then returned again, presumably by a courier. Some hints there in terms of issues that we could address within the feasibility answer to this question. The proposed system, a little bit more tight. What we'll have there is the scripts being sent by a secure courier to the local area offices, where they'll be scanned onto some sort of computer system and allocated to markers. We're bringing in some sort of software system that will enable the markers to mark by the use of simple mouse movements. No arithmetic checking of scripts, because that will be done automatically. So it looks as if, all in all, this new system is going to potentially bring quite a few benefits. Now, this project is at the feasibility stage, so what we're looking to do is to say, really, what areas under that heading of feasibility should we look at? Okay, and that's what we're required to do for 15 marks. So let's have a quick look at what they require us to lay out an answer of this kind. And really, what they always do in the first instance is give us just a quick sort of summary definition of what a feasibility study is. And really what it is just a means of establishing whether or not a proposed project can be completed or achieve its objectives in a cost-effective manner. Okay, it may enable the entity concerned to decide between several different alternatives. Okay, now over and above that, what we're going to have to do in this feasibility study, indeed under our four main headings, is to collect sufficient information, that will give us a fix on sort of key technical areas and indeed performance objectives or performance areas. One of the key points in this particular answer is this idea of the technology itself. Now, do bear in mind when you read down this question is that the technical feasibility section is much longer than the other sections. That may well not be the case in the on the day. It may well be that one of the other areas or two of the other areas are more important. In this particular case, because we're sort of focusing in on a sort of an IT issue, you'll see that the technical feasibility is probably 2 or 3 times the size of the other areas. Now, in terms of the technical side, what do we need to do? Well, their paragraphs are pretty straight out, dealing first with technical. And the key point here in the technical side is, whether or not the technology is available in any way, shape, or form. And over and above that, has it been tried and tested? Okay. Now it looks as if in this particular case that's not going to pose a problem because other examining bodies are using this technique, this online marking system. So really that area is, doesn't pose any sort of significant risk. It may well be in another type of question if technical feasibility is relevant, and I'm sure that it will be, that it may well be that the technology has not been tried and tested. So it's important for you to recognize that one key area is to test the technology, test the relevant technology. Now, given that point, and over and above whether or not it's been tried and tested, which it has, the performance of the technology has got to sort of live up to the performance requirements for this particular entity, the institute. And in particular, what we're doing here is we're looking to, scan handwritten scripts. And you'll know yourself, and certainly I've experienced from online marking myself, is that quality is a potential problem. If you can't read the script, it's pretty difficult to mark it. Okay, so we need sufficient quality to enable the marker to read and indeed mark the script, and indeed the scanners need to be of sufficient speed. Yeah, quality is relevant to the point above. Any problems in this area could lead to students not getting their results on time, which would be not good for the institute. Okay, over and above that. It may well be that the markers are using their own equipment. It may be that the institute wants to lay out perhaps guidelines for any equipment to be used by the markers in terms of a minimum standard. Okay. Other point here, if IT comes up, security of data, security of transfer of scripts is always going to be an issue given that we're using the internet. So that's an important area to mention, data security. As mentioned above, this issue of downtime or the possibility of downtime is not really something that that they'll allow for, be able to allow for, given the fact that there's a set time scale for the return of scripts to students. So that deals with the technical side. On the social side, and you'll notice that this feasibility area works a little bit like our environmental scanning tool PEST. We have social or indeed operational feasibility. First important point, this is a point that students I think maybe might not make under that sort of social banner, as it were. It's just this idea of fitting in with the organization's goals. It needs to be socially acceptable, needs to be aligned, as it were, with the businesses or the organizational goals. Social alignment or sort of impact is obviously important as well. And in addition to that, outside of the sort of the alignment here, one of the things you've got to think about under social is people. Yeah. So who are the people involved, and indeed, what are their skill levels? Are they at a level that will be acceptable to the institute? And if they're not, what are the levels of training that need to be given, and perhaps what are the cost implications of that? Over and above that, given the type and style of project that we're talking about, really we're cutting down on work, we're cutting down on a variety of different things. So the employment implications may be relevant under this social heading, and the possibility of redundancies. Okay. In terms of ecological or environmental, again, fairly straightforward here. When we think ecological, we've got to be thinking of sort of impact, the impact of this particular project on the environment and indeed the local community. Now, in this particular case, it works in a positive sense because, in essence, if we're using fewer couriers, let's say, we're reducing the amount of sort of transport required for the script. So they specifically want you to make a note of the fact that in terms of pollution or indeed emissions, this is a positive sort of benefit for the environment. Quite a short section there. Okay. In terms of economic, I guess this should make some more sense to us as accountants, and very much what you would expect here. Just this idea of a cost-benefit analysis and trying to ensure that the sort of the costs are outweighed by the benefits. One thing that they will require you to do is just to have a look at, or perhaps express, what type of costs will be included within this particular scenario. So if we think about it, we're looking at sort of hardware and a scanner. So certainly, there must be capital costs included. New scanners or higher quality scanners, for example. Indeed, the software is going to cost money as well. Revenue costs could be what we mentioned above under the social heading in terms of training, or indeed maintenance costs, perhaps of the equipment or indeed the software. This one maybe a little bit looser here in terms of sort of interest associated with any expenditure or loans taken out to fund the project. Important here under this economic banner, bear in mind we're talking about a cost-benefit analysis. Let's talk about benefits as well as costs. And in terms of the benefits, they should be fairly clear. Let's split them between tangible and intangible, if we can. Tangible benefits, obviously, the reduced cost of couriers and indeed staff. And it may well be that they're offset, as they say, by perhaps redundancy payments. Intangible benefits, I guess the image of the Institute in terms of, being able to produce a better product, as it were, the results are getting out faster to the students, hopefully, subject to the points that I made above. And that will have an impact upon the image perhaps of the Institute. Okay, third thing under this banner, apart from obviously mentioning CB analysis, is this idea of what techniques would you use? And these will be familiar to us from our other studies, NPV and payback and rate of return. So there's just a very quick and speedy summary on feasibility for project management. Key thing is those 4 areas, getting a fix on what they mean and trying to apply them as best you can for to the scenario. Okay, I hope that's been helpful.